What is up, everyone? DJ Nubis here with you on the Metal Time Radio podcast with my co-host today and good friend Jedi Grand Velle. This is the Vintage Cult Cinema, and today we are here to discuss The King of New York, 1990 film directed by Abel Ferrara. Stars Christopher Walken, Lawrence Fishburne, David Caruso, Wesley Snipes, and many, many more that we will get into. Even Steve Buscemi makes a appearance in this film as well. So before we get into it, of course, Jedi Granville, this is the first time you had gotten to see this film, which I didn't even know. What was your initial thoughts when watching this?
Well, when you had mentioned the name of it, I actually confused it with another film that starred Trent Williams, which was called Prince of the City. And the way it's formed, I'm thinking like, okay, this is what he's talking about. But then when I heard about it, I was like, how's I never heard of this film? I never, like I say, it was never on my radar. It was that so closed off that I never even, when you mentioned it, I was like, I've never heard of this film. And it's like, it's that old, So my initial thought was like, okay, well then this is something that's new to me, then I gotta check it out. And when I officially watched it, I was like, wow, I see why he suggested this, because this film is nothing like what I expected it to be. This film is, look, it's got your crime, it's got your, in high intelligence, it's got a realism to it that really brings out what's going on and everything. But I was like, it did not go the way that I thought it was going to go in terms of, this character or that character. I was like, okay, it's like, I can see why, is again, Anubis suggests this to me. And like I say, it is a good ride. It's kind of short for my taste. I figure like films like this would be a little longer, but then again, it's like, hey, you're telling a story, you make your point. And I realize in the end, it's like, okay, it made its point. It's driving the narrative home. And after watching it, it's like, yes, this is going to be one of those favorites of mine that I'm going to watch again and again. But that's how it is.
And it's funny you say it, because this came out in 1990, and I probably didn't see it till 92 or 93. So it was clearly after it had already been released. And so when I go into it at that time, I'm like, I already knew a lot of the names, at least Christopher Walken for sure. But when you see like Wesley Snipes and David Caruso, a lot of these actors who went on to have like really great careers, I was like, wow, this is like an all-star cast, of which at the time I didn't even know this film existed when I first saw it in rental. But once I watched it, I fell in love with it. It became an instant favorite of mine, like you said, with you now. This is a neo-noir film. Go ahead.
I was going to say, the thing about this film is it's an independent type film. It's got no major, studio behind it or anything like that. It's just got these characters, these actors in here. But that shows right there, the guy who directed it, have that creativity to say, I'm going to make something. And you got to remember, some of these guys, were still kind of green. Lawrence Fishburne, you mentioned Wesley Snipes, before he blew up and became Blade or Passenger 57. It's like, dude, come on. Because when I saw Steve Buscemi in here, I was kind of like, he's in here too. I realized he was around at the time. I was like, did not know that this guy was floating in this film. I was like, damn, that's like top notch kind of stuff right there.
Yeah, because I'm sitting here and I'm like, obviously Fishburne, at around this time, shortly after he did movies like Deep Cover, and he just kind of started building his credit, but he was always like doing these smaller roles.
Yeah.
And then you got Walken, who definitely already kind of made a name for himself with like The Dead Zone and Deer Hunter and stuff like that. But David Caruso, he went on to do, I think it was CSI Miami after this, like later in the 90s. So, and of course he did Jade in 95, I think, something like that.
Yes, he did.
So he was doing, some pretty good films for a while after this. So it is pretty amazing, just like the cast and where they went after this film. But at the time, like nobody was talking about this film back then that I had remembered for myself. until I watched it, and then I started telling people, like, you need to see this film. But this is a neo-noir crime drama film, and basically it tells the story of Frank White, played by Walken, who is spending time in prison, who is getting out, and he's coming back to New York. And basically, he is tied to a bunch of street gang or street thugs, whatever you want to call them, which his right-hand man is Jimmy Jump, played by Lawrence Fishburne. And this is probably one of my favorite roles by Lawrence Fishburne because of how he portrays the character. Even watching it again today, his mannerisms for what he does for like the simplest things, when he's like, when he's with Tito and he's making the drug deal, he's doing these little like, shimmies and stuff like that. And so I'm like, dude, he is playing the gangster thug so well. Because even when you're sitting there saying, something bad's going to happen because you just know how these guys run.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm Tito, like the way that Tito was, I'm saying to myself, wow, like I can trust Jimmy because he's just acting like a normal dude, like what I would expect him to act like. He's not showing any signs of like
retaliation
or anything. Yeah. And it isn't until Tito opens up that briefcase with the tampons that he's like, what is this? He's like, those are for the bullet holes, motherfucker.
Yep.
And so anyway, White gets out, and you were right about one thing. This movie doesn't go the way you think. There's a lot going on within it, even for the short runtime.
Yeah.
Because Frank White, despite being a guy who has a reputation of being in the criminal underworld, his goal seems to be to do good things.
Yes.
Like he wants to build a hospital with the money, but he doesn't care where the money's coming from. He just wants to build it. He seems to want to help inner city kids and stuff like this. And so his thinking is very much, and I think you've seen it probably, is it reminds me a little bit of, not totally, but reminds me a little bit of Tequila Sunrise with Mel Gibson. You remember how like Mel was like the bad guy who was trying to do good, but Kurt Russell was the good guy doing bad. And so it reminds me of that in terms of how the plot is between the cops and the bad guys in this film.
Yes. And the funny thing is, because I recently did talking about Heat and everything, I realized that, there's a Lawrence Fishburne and Mr. Christopher Walken. The thing about that is that you think you understand the plight or the plot of the character that's being played here. That's a great scene right there, I must say. And that's the guy from and I was gonna say the guy on the right hand side, that's you see him in a minute. I can't pronounce his name worth a damn, but he's been in another.
The direct right or the far right?
The far right. I mean, I see Steve McKinn, but the guy right in front of him, okay. That guy, he's been in many things. He's been in many Spike Lee films and whatnot, But no, getting back to what I was saying, Heat is a perfect example where it's not one-sided in terms of you think like you understand the criminal mind very well, or you understand the police officer's state of mind. But it turns out it's like you don't understand until you really break it down and realize like they got a different motive than you as a artist member attending knows. And I'm watching it and I'm just like, Frank, he's like, it's like, he's done bad. He's going to continue to do bad in a sense, but he's trying to do the bad, put it like this, a necessary evil in order to do something good, and you feel like, okay, automatically, he's like, he's not a good person, but he's trying to make amends in terms of doing something better for other people. Which is why
he kind of like even towards the end when he's talking to the head cop, he's like, I've killed nothing but bad people. These guys were dirt. Like, they were girl traffickers. They were drug deal. Like, not why he's a drug dealer too, but just they always had something worse about them than they weren't trying to do any good in the world. They were just being bad dudes. Like, even though Frank understood that he's just like a cog in the machine, he was still trying to, in his own way, to do good things with that money because he actually cared. He even mentions early in the film at that dinner table. He was like, "I want to be mayor," and
Yeah,
the
right.
Asian laughing. He's like, "No, she thinks I'm not serious. I want to be mayor," because I think ultimately his goal was to be a good guy, but they're just the way that he had to go about it was through the underworld.
Mhm. Yes, and that's the thing you have to look out for, and this is one of the reasons why, because I'm watching it, I'm like, he's like that doesn't seem like typical, big, boss kind of mentality. I mean, it's like, and then maybe it's just a way of fronting the money, but it's like, no, he's not really fronting money or these kind of situations. He's like saying, trying to help the ones more unfortunate and go about his business and just say, hey, just do it like that. But as it turns out, as much as we want to say that, okay, well, let's just let him do what he's doing, but as the plot goes, you find out that some of the cops from who know Frank pretty well, it's like, we can't just let this go by you doing certain duty during doing dirty deeds under the table and think like we're just gonna let it slide. And this is where I realized, like, you just don't know where this film is going, because where it happens in the story that, okay, they do this, they get them, they do this, but it's like they can't hold them for whatever, because they just got that kind of connections. But where it goes from there is like, oh my god. And at one point I was thinking, when he was taking out the competition, Frank, I was thinking like, okay, he's telling the head guy, the head cop who's dealing with this. I'm thinking that he's the one. He's giving him information to kind of like get them rolled over and whatever, But it turns out that's not the case. It says that they're trying to find something on Rank and try to bring him down. But
Yeah,
in the end, we realized like, wow, all you're doing is setting up the recommendations that you are going to make things bad for yourselves. I'm talking about the cops, because
yeah,
guys, the so-called bad guys are trying to, be left alone and do their business. Where the cops say, well, you're bad, you're evil, you gotta be taken down. We find out the cops aren't exactly that green themselves in what they do. You know, they're
yeah. And it's interesting because at that early meeting at the dinner table, we get introduced to this lovely creature
yes,
who, for probably one of the hottest DAs that I've ever seen,
my God,
uh,
yes.
or lawyers, for that's his own lawyer,
Hmm.
who he also bangs on the side, which is kind of nice.
Yes. Well, we see.
I always enjoy the subway scene because
Amazing.
he's filling her up, kissing her, and then these three local thug guys walk up thinking they're going to get the jump on. Frank just casually opens his jacket. He's got the gun sitting there and he pulls out a wad of cash, tosses it to him, says, "Hey, looking for work? Come find me."
I
And those
love
guys
that
don't know what to
scene.
do with themselves at that point. But
Right.
she's so good that she's able to get, of course, his guys out of jail when they get into a bind. And she's a big integral part. But also, here's the other interesting about this film that I think back to now, and I know you can probably appreciate. So, in the modern day, when we have the boss girl, the boss lady, the badasses, this film in 1990 was already kind of playing on that. And, we get introduced to a couple ladies who are actually Frank's like bodyguards. And so we get this
Yes.
lovely creature here,
Hmm.
Melanie, and then of course Ray, the girl on the left there.
Yes, Teresa.
They're badass in their own way, and they basically, they of course entertain guys, entertain Frank, but they're also deadly as fuck. They
Yes.
also know how to use weapons and stand, behind Frank as being protectors. So what did you think of that? Like that scenario and that plot device for them?
I really, see, I realized this was not too much of a stretch for me, because seeing women in protective roles like that, that's been done before, but it's been in very small, integral parts, and especially around the 70s and 80s. You see them, but you don't really see that effect of them. Protecting a male as far as that goes. So,
Mm,
and seeing it, didn't really well, like I say, for I say, it wasn't that much of a stretch because the way I looked at it, it's just like, well, I mean, they're female, but they're doing their job, you know. And this is where I can say this is for the whole clash of the feminism, you know, the wokenism and all that stuff, and how it's turned its head in terms of like, wow, a woman is protecting a man. She's a bodyguard. It's like, okay, but she seemed like they should be protecting a woman in this particular state. It's like it's not about that. If you're a male or a female and you're good at your job, that's what it's about, you know. But this time, you know, and this is a '90s film. It's just showing that hey, you don't have to necessarily be a certain gender in order to do the job. It's just that's how it is, you know, and that's how it's portrayed. But again, this is before Hollywood became what it is now. This disease of saying you got to think this kind of ideology in terms of for you to fit in. I was like, no, you do not. If you have to fit in just to fit that motive, then well, then you're missing
Right.
what the story is, you know.
Yeah, because like, these girls were again, like, sure, they were in a sense sort of house entertainment for some of the guys, but it was due their own choice. They weren't forced to do anything.
Yes.
They had the respect of Frank, obviously, as bodyguards as well as like women. Like, they all understood, they all played a role in Frank's life in terms of his leadership. Even the lawyer herself, like, she had Frank's respect. She tried to advise him as best as she could about things, but Frank's going to do shit his way. It's just how it goes. But yeah, so they were boss bitches before it became like in vogue, basically.
Yeah,
Now
right.
there was no forcing of the square peg into the round hole to say, well, we got to have them, do this. Like, the director and writer did it on their own. They said, we're going to make these chicks powerful in their own way in this film to suit and fit the roles that they have as characters in this particular scenario.
Right.
And so I could appreciate that.
And I see that's what I was going to say. You know, that's when you mentioned before. I feel is more threatening when they make the choice on their own, not being forced. Because if they're forced, it's like, okay, well, then they don't really have no sense of, a point in terms of their own goals of what they want. If they're doing it on their own, that shows they're even more threatening because it shows that, hey, I got a mind, I got a wheel of doing something, and I'm not going to let someone push me around. I'm not going to, whether you be a man or woman. If I decide I want to do this, I want to do something shady or the side, I'm going to do it on my own. Because they could either walk away from it, but it's like,
Yeah.
I'm going to stick with this.
Yeah, they weren't living in fear. They were actually part of that group, that team. Even like when Ray goes to pick up Jimmy and the rest of the guys from jail and they get arrested, they're hugging. They're like comrades. They're not treating these girls differently. Girls, if they want sex, they actually kind of just take it. If they want some dude's dick, they're going to jump on it.
Right.
It's not like the guys can just walk up and grab them and take it. They're not going to let you do that.
Yes.
So
they're their own, like I say, they're their own, as you say, they're their own persons, and it's like they're not going to wield something on them that they don't want to do themselves. I mean, look, even that moment when homeboy, insults the cops, dropping his pants, showing his ass, you see the lawyer, I mean, literally just look down and look at his butt. It was like, hey, I can do that, so I'm not going to let myself be, denied that. I mean, because I'm here, I choose to be here, I choose to get them out. So it's like, yes, that's the thing. You realize that these women are not coaxed into something that they don't want to do. If they were, that would have been more threatening. But to me, I think it's more enlightening knowing that they doing this on their own and no one's pushing them around to do it. I love that.
yeah. And speaking of I've had this since I think when I first watched it, and it was of course VHS back in the day. So I did have this already on VHS.
Okay.
So just figured I would show that off a little bit.
That's what you do, because I mean, that's like I say, technology back then was that. I mean, that was look. Let's be honest. VHSs were the state of the art of technology back then. That's how it was.
Yeah.
No figure go that when we get into the streaming line and it's like everything is so crisp and clean that you see certain things that you didn't see when it was like that low res, but now it's high res. It's like, okay, that's how it is now.
Yeah, but I like that this film, the way it's shot, like you mentioned at the beginning, that it's very gritty. It's very real in a lot of the
Yes,
sense of like I know we're going to get to it, and obviously I'm going to kind of point to some of that now. Is obviously here's Caruso and Snipes as cops in this.
right.
Um, you mentioned that there comes a point where we're seeing two sides of this society where Frank is in the underworld. He's basically, as Snipes' character says, the king of New York. He's untouchable because they can't direct anything towards him specifically. But now you got Caruso, who, despite not really being the leader of the cops, we have this older gentleman who's actually, I think he's dying or close to it because he already knows his time is
Right.
about up. But he hates Frank just as much as anyone, but he tries to remain
By the
within the
book.
law.
Yeah.
Right. And but Caruso, they're younger guys, and we have a guy that's part of their crew that just gets married. Now, this is something that we're going to talk about. He's a younger guy, but he's part of that crew. And
Yeah.
so
I mean,
Caruso's character gets in his good brain to go and attack Frank, like, but they're gonna do it under cover of like masks and stuff, like they make it look like a gang hit.
yeah.
And obviously it goes bad.
Yes, very.
They do get their licks in. They take out quite a few of the people within Frank's group. The girls don't make it. His bodyguards don't make it. But there's that scene, of course, when one of them is grabbing the car door of the limo as Frank and Jimmy are getting away.
Dude,
And,
that I'm sorry. That look, I've seen many playful moments when someone gets theirs, they hit something, but that hurt me drastically. I mean, you could hit a wall, you could hit a door, but hitting a damn fire hydrant. I was like, oh, I'm like, I don't know. That just seems like that's more cringe moment right there.
that's a shitty way to go, man.
Yes.
And again, like that's the young dude that just got married. I'm just,
Yes.
the entire time I'm thinking to myself, they want you to feel bad, but like for me, it's like, sure, this young guy probably was a little bit pressured from Caruso, who are veteran police officers, but I'm more mad at Caruso's character as he's the one that's kind of putting these guys up to this. Him and Tommy, played by Snipes, they're the ones that are driving this force to get back at Frank, the way they only know how because they're tired of watching him walk, which I think we've all been there in real life society where we're like, this person he got off way too light, or even this black guy who got nabbed for like dime bag is in prison for 10 years, which is bullshit. We've seen injustices all over the real society, but we also know that we can't just have our cops going out there rogue and trying to make justice for themselves. Yeah, and so that's clearly what happens here, and it goes really badly. But before we kind of go back to that, when Jimmy gets arrested at the chicken joint, I like that scene, but then I kind of hate it. And the only reason why I hate it is because there's a nice moment where Jimmy actually is as cocky as he is, and he's ordering his food. Those kids are playing by the arcade, and so the guy behind the counter is like telling them to go away. They don't have any money, but Jimmy goes and he gives the kids some quarters and stuff to go play, and gives the woman watching him, maybe the grandmother or whatever, some money for the food. Rather than have him get arrested right away, right there, and kind of ruin that moment, I thought that was kind of like a really nice moment where it also capitalizes a little bit on Frank's outlook on what he wants to try to do with the good, with the bad. And it kind of took away Jimmy's steam a little bit there when he was trying to be really cool with the kids and understand what they're in poverty and not affording the things that he can through his life. But at the same time, it doesn't totally ruin it, but it just kind of, I wish they would have let him walk out with his food first or something before they nabbed him.
Yeah, it's kind of funny you say that because I was feeling that kind of same way. It's like that vibe was going pretty well. It was going that mentality. It's like it's showing, like I say, it's like, yeah, he's he's like I say, he is who he is. He's an animated character. He's doing what he does for what he has to do business wise. But he's showing that it's like, hey, if you don't have it, I can give a little bit to you. And like I say, and I'm thinking like, okay, there's a reason why we're seeing this moment where he's getting the chicken, he's getting the food, and going back. But he's just like I say, he's just being who he is. He figure like, hey, just get back to, like I say, Robin Hood to the hood, and that's kind of how he's doing. But once when I saw the cops start to arrest homeboy outside the guy who's driving, I was kind of like, oh shit, do you mean to tell me they got this guy that got up there on busting, And then, like I say, take away that vibe. Take away that vibe that he was doing back there. It's like, man, dude, it's like, okay, you got him on this, but you can't just wait until after, And I'm thinking the picture will do this, but this is an example of where I said before, you don't know where this picture is going. You don't know where it's going to lead to, and it's a shame that it did go that way. But at the same time, I realized it's a story narrative, and you realize like, hey, these cops are just doing their jobs in terms of trying to bust down the bad guys and what they're doing. So it's like, okay, it's working for me. But what happens later on is just like, I can say again, did not see this coming. What's coming next?
Yeah. And these moments, like you said, because of the, I mean, obviously I've never been in a gunfight with cops or robbers.
Let's hope we never do.
Yeah, but there is that, it does give you a sense of realism, just how well the acting is done in this. So as the cops had raided Frank's place and all that shootout goes on and the fire hydrant and stuff like that, a chase ensues across a bridge. They're shooting at each other. Detective Dennis Gilly, played by Caruso, as well as Tommy Flanagan. They're chasing Frank and Jimmy across the city. So they end up getting, a car smashed up and out of place. And so Frank is kind of running on his way. So now Dennis and Tommy are following Jimmy to the railroad area. And this is definitely a really real moment all the way around. So as Tommy, played by Snipes, is trying to track Jimmy, Jimmy gets the best of him and shoots him. And then they're kind of tussling. But there's that moment where before that, Tommy's like, hey, I got some chicken for you. And then when Jimmy gets to drop down on him and shoots him, he's like, oh, where's my chicken, Black? Where is it? He's talking all this shit, and so credit to Tommy to try to fight for his life, but Jimmy gets the best of him and kills him, or at least shoots him to the ground. And of course, Dennis shows up and shoots Jimmy, who's still alive. And this is the thing about why, again, Lawrence is so great in this role, is that he just has this maniacal laugh. And every time he's around, it's like, even when he's shot, he's just laughing. He's in pain and everything else. But again, Dennis is sitting there. He's already lost a young friend of theirs from the fire hydrant. And now Tommy, one of the bullets got past the bulletproof vest and is dying in his arms. So like Dennis is like distraught. He knows he fucked up by doing this. Like, it's costed them the lives of a lot of the cops. But in that cold scene, he just walks up to Jimmy and just like headshots him, and it's done. Yeah.
Because even the lead, even the older cop, sounds like, don't fuck up and doing something. He's not so much giving him permission to do what he's going to do, but it's like he's pretty much saying, do not get caught, because the second you get caught, that's your ass. That's pretty much what he was saying. But,
because even if you think about, like, had they succeeded. Mm-hmm. But let's say the young cop that died at the fire hydrant, well, how do you explain that? Because once he's found, he's going to be in gear that is covering his face, and then he's going to have a weapon that probably isn't registered to any cop. It's probably something they took from their
from the lockup,
evidence area or something like that. So they would have to explain anyway. So that would lead to corruption, and then of course, the older cop would know this. And so any cases they would have worked on would have been out the door. So that's why the older cop was so upset about this, about not just the lives lost, but what it would cost them. And then in the coldest moment that you could probably ever think of, they're at the funeral of Tommy and the younger guy,
Mm.
and probably the other cops too. I don't know how many died and all that, but
Yeah.
uh, Dennis leaves to try to because he's just
He's
pissed off at
destroyed.
himself. Yeah, and he's in his car, and then his limo starts coming up through all the other limos and pulls up, and Frank just says, "Hey." Pulls out a shotgun and just blasts him right in the
Blast.
fucking face. Right there. All the cops there and everything just blast him.
They scatter. They try to get out. I'm like, dude. I mean, and what I love about that, knowing that Frank, that's one thing love about Frank's character is that some of that stuff he does himself. He does, you know, pulls the trigger himself. He feels like he gets off, not so much gets off, but it's like I'm bringing a message like I'm not afraid to, get my hands dirty and doing what needs to be done. Because he even shoots that guy early in the film named Artie. It's like I want to talk, I want to discuss something, but it's like what, you don't want to have this talk, you don't want to have this agreement. Pop. It's like we ain't got to talk no more. I'm just gonna pop your ass, and I'm going to hire your men that are with you for me, because we don't need no second king, as the saying goes, and so it makes me, I love those kind of characters where they do the dirty work themselves. I mean, true enough, they have someone on the side to do it, but when you see them actually put foot to ass and making something happen, it's like, yes, that shows what their initiative is. It's like their agenda is like, get the job done and make sure it's done the right way, and don't be half-assing, as I like to say.
Yeah, like good point with Artie, because he just tells him, "Look, I just want in whatever cut. Like, if you sell a dime bag, I want a percentage of that." That's all he says, and then he's ready to kind of like let it go. He's ready to say, "I'm going to let you live, but I want a piece of this cut." But then when Artie starts talking shit about like you won't live long enough to spend it, well, that just sets him off. He's like, "Well, okay," and he just blasts him in front of all his dudes. All his guys, all there. He just shoots him and says, but he makes a good point, because I like that he doesn't just say like I'm the better man or I'm the king of the world. He says, if you're tired of being ripped off by a piece of shit like that, you can come with me and work with me. And really, the older guys don't. Like, they kind of just sit still because what the fuck are they gonna do? But the younger bodyguards that he had, they all just went out the door with Frank. They said, "Fuck it." So they saw where the money was going. They knew that Artie wasn't going to be around anymore anyway. So that's a good point you make there. And then, of course, when they're dealing with the Asian guys, I guess from Chinatown or whatever you want to call it. So the same thing happens. Frank again is trying to work with I think his name's Larry.
Larry, yes,
the head guy, and so he's like trying to get him to invest so they can do that hospital thing. And Larry's just kind of like, dude, you're just crazy. I don't know what, like, it's almost like these guys didn't see the bigger picture that Frank did. They were all just wanted to live in their own little worlds, avoiding cops and all this. And even though Frank was a part of that, he wanted something better. And a part of me says, I kind of respect that, even though the way he was going about it was kind of destructive, because
it was kind of shady, as the saying goes.
Yeah, but you can kind of see that in the end, the guy really just wanted to do good for New York. He wanted to make a better life, especially with health and people like that in the inner city. So I kind of got it. You don't have to agree with his methods, obviously, but these other gangs, the Italians or the Asians, whatever, they just wanted to stay in their own cliques. They just wanted to work their own way. So eventually Frank just takes it. He just goes.
Even his lawyer didn't. I mean, his lawyer girlfriend didn't necessarily agree to some of his motives, but I mean his methods. But he was like, okay, I mean, we're gonna do it that way, so be it. I'm not just because she knew the score, she knew all that, she knew this, but she's like, okay, we're gonna do this, so be it, but that's the thing, and like I say with Larry, you feel like I'm to be honest with you, I'm thinking Larry would have gone along with his idea, his plan, but as it turns out, it's like, nope, I'm not dealing this. I mean, because and this is what makes me wonder sometimes that if they had really thought about it, really thought about his situation of what he was trying to do, they'll. It's kind of funny, but you can actually get more out of being a you know what's the word not for philanthropist. You could be more when you be something doing good, even though the methods are bad in doing it. You can actually get more out of that because you're more low. Believe it or not, you're more low key than you think you are. You know, I mean, it's true enough you
Yes.
see things going on, but I guess they, as you say, they want to stay in that mindset of it's like this is the way we should be. You know, more less cops will be, law enforcement will be on this, but it's like wow, if y'all had listened and just gone along with it, you'd be surprised how good you really would have had it. But unfortunately, we don't. They don't see it that way. You know?
Excellent point, because yeah, that's such a good point, because I start thinking back to the Warriors with Cyrus.
Yes.
Cyrus had a great plan
Hmm.
to get all the gangs together to work as one unit to control everything. Now, granted, they were rough. They didn't have the same vision Frank does, but you made a point to say that Larry and Artie didn't see the bigger picture. Because had they all worked with Frank to get that common goal, sure, they can still live a nice life in the luxury that they were building, but they would have been able to be a team and control so much of the city and to avoid all the interactions of their own differences, because that's really what tears everything down. If you
Yeah.
think about it, it's what eventually hurt Cyrus, because there was always going to be somebody that didn't want what they wanted.
Yeah.
And
And it's kind of funny you mentioned that because with Cyrus, you know, and the Warriors, you know, because I always go back to this one episode of Star Trek: The Next Generation, and it's this negotiator, this mediator. That's he's mute, deaf, and everything, but he has these people who talk for him, you know, through sign language or everything. But the thing about it is he's going between these two warring factions that you know they want peace, but they only go through him in order to get this peace. And the weird thing about it is that he's telling them in no small fashion that I have no magic tricks, I don't have this that to in order for y'all to hear me, you know, say we're trying to do something good for humanity and I mean between you two. And one of them is so like I guess that just shows how embedded that mindset of war and everything is so embedded in them that this one guy says no, you know, death, you know, you know, war and everything, and he shoots his people that he helps him, you know, translate and everything. And it's like the one guy that's with him, he's like, no, you know, it's like we're trying to do a peaceful thing, and he kills him because it's like dude, we could have had this. We could have been, you know, in a better position, but you decide to just piss it all away because you feel that war is the only answer in order to live. You know, it's like that's to me is an example of knowing that some people are so hardwired or been living in that mindset for so long with some things that they feel like that's the only way to live. You know, but again, I guess in the end though it's well, and actually, I'll take it another step because this is another Star Trek movie that does the same thing that does it beautifully. Star Trek 6, The Undiscovered Country, where the animosity between you know the Klingons and the Federation. It's like maybe we can come to peaceful negotiations by you know dropping our war type situations and come to peaceful terms, but what's funny is you think it's just a Klingon side, but someone on the Federation side says, I don't think we want to have peace. I think we should
yep.
continue on being at war with one another, being at the animosity, I mean, at the conflict with one another. And it's like, wow, y'all mean to tell me y'all can't figure, you mean to tell me peace is more scarier than war, you know? And it's crazy that in that mindset that is legitimately how in our real society, real world society, people are like that. They have been warring or been in a certain situation for so long that even though they dream it, if they actually get it, they actually feel like this feels alien to me. I don't know if I really want this because I've been doing,
Self-sabotage.
yes, and that's the reason why I realized, with this film, the characters in here, it's been examples of this kind of stuff many times before, but in other particular genre, I mean, particular films. But it's amazing how some people really do not want peace. They don't want the olive branch in order to do something better in terms of their lifestyle, and it's crazy how their mind has just been twisted. And let's be honest, I'm probably getting too political with this, but
It's all
look
right.
at our society today and see
Mhm.
that this is exactly how some people are so ramped up and saying that this person is this way, this person is that way. But it's like, if this person is really trying to make your life a better way of life, but you still call this person this, it's like that shows you are really been brainwashed to think this way. And this is why I say, in this movie and other movies like this, he's showing a brilliant way of showing how people are just been lobotomized to some degree on how they should live their lives. And they say, like, well, I'm going to take it in my own steps to say, I'm going to stick with this particular lifestyle because I feel like it's best for me. I mean, yes, I could probably have something better in terms of peace or
Mhm.
whatever, but I'm not doing that. And that's
It's,
it's sad. It's a sad coincidence, but that is how our lifestyle, and that's kind of how our society today is, to a degree.
yeah. Yeah, everybody wants their own cliques. They don't want to budge. It's same with the right and the left of the country in terms of political, uh, their politics. They're too ingrained in their own thinking that they don't want to see middle ground.
Mhm.
And even though for the country, we better if we found some middle ground. This way, everybody can be accepted the way they want to, whether you're a Christian or a trans person or whatever.
Yeah,
We just have too many people that don't want to budge. They just want to
that's it.
stay in their myopic thinking. And so that's a good point. Obviously this of course is about crime in this film where it's just different cliques of criminal groups, but they are the same way. They don't want to think outside the box. They're comfortable in their own little worlds and they don't want to come out of it.
Okay. And that's
Uh,
a great part about that too.
but anyway, after Dennis's death at the funeral, the older cop decides he goes back home, and of course Frank is there, and we have this interesting discussion between him and Frank,
Right.
where Frank actually explains everything we're talking about. How Frank, he's not as bad as the guys he's taken out, and he's got a bigger vision for New York to try to take the money that he's taking and create a better world. Then he explains, yes, I push drugs, but then even if I'm out of the equation, there's always going to be somebody else to step up and do it.
Mhm.
I'm just a businessman. I'm just a cog in the
And
machine, but
copy paste.
I've got a bigger vision for
Mhm.
what I want to achieve. And of course, the cop's like, well, does that mean you get to be judge, jury, and executioner? And of course, it's kind of a missed opportunity for Frank because I would have been like, well, your guys that are on your team seem to think they can do the same shit as I do. So,
Right. Yeah.
I'm surprised he didn't take that opportunity to explain that to him. But, Frank is just still being very honest to this guy, and he makes him handcuff himself to his chair as he leaves. But this cop is a veteran, way older than the other, so he's already had backup plans for everything. So he gets out of the handcuffs, grabs his extra gun, and he goes and he follows Frank to the subway where they have this confrontation. And again, interesting thing here is Frank takes a black woman hostage, so to speak,
Mhm.
as a cop tries to tell him, this is between you and I, let the woman go. And Frank's like, look, I don't want to kill you, but I will. Like, just, I want you to know this. And again, you said it earlier. This is the thing about Frank that's a little weird with his character. Probably one of the weirder things about his character is he wants to do good things, but at the heart of it, he's really like a cold as ice because even when he loses people in his group, his girlfriends, his bodyguards, Jimmy, he takes it personally, but not to the point that he cries over them. It's not like he's
Yeah,
like devastated. And so he is very cold in the sense that even if he has to survive, he doesn't care who he has to kill or who he loses.
yeah. Yes, stay
And
focused.
that's kind of unfortunate for that type of character when you've thought about the good things you want to do. But it is what it is in terms of his character. But eventually, he just shoots the cop in the subway. But the cop does get a round off, and initially, we think he misses,
Yeah,
which takes Frank to a taxi outside, and he's in the back, and there's traffic, and it's raining, and cops are now are converging around the area because they know he's somewhere.
yeah,
And then we get this nice kind of drawn out scene where the taxi driver sees his gun and decides to run out and alert people that the cops that he's in the back of his cab.
hmm,
And there's just kind of like this moment where we notice Frank's got a bullet hole in his gut. He's probably not going to live long. And of course, eventually he's just kind of looking at maybe missed opportunities or thinking about one thing we do know, he never wanted to go back to jail. He tells his loyal girlfriend, he's like, I'm not ever going back to a cage. I'm out. I'm going to do what I'm doing. If I have to die trying to do it, so be it. So, what are your thoughts about the ending sequence there?
well, it's again. This is exactly why I said this film is it's fun. It's again. I was amazed that I never saw this film until now. But when I see this moment, where they're on the subway and he gets, and like I say, he gets off more shots than the head cop. And when you hear that one shot that he lets off, I was like, okay, he kills him. But at the same time, when I'm thinking, I mean, it's registered in my brain. It's like, did that one shot actually hit him? Did it actually get him?
Mhm.
And this is one thing and this is one thing people have to realize. It doesn't take 3 or 4 or 100 shots to kill somebody. It only takes one if you hit him in the vital area. So when I'm seeing him walk up when seeing him walk away from the subway, he's going up the stairs. I see how he has his hands like this. So I'm thinking like, okay, maybe he made it out. But at the same time, I'm thinking to myself, that one shot, I don't think that he got out of that. I don't think I think he got, I think he got hit. So
Yeah,
when he's walking around, and I'm thinking he's not showing no signs of, any kind of, you know, kind of
discomfort or pain. Yeah.
he's like he's pretty much holding his own. He's pretty much, whatever. So when he gets in the taxi, he tells the guy to drive, and the only reason why the guy, gets out because he sees the gun and everything. But then that's when it's revealed that he pulls back his coat and it's like, yeah, I kind of fear that that's what happened, And I realized, like, to me, that was just pretty much a brilliant piece of, storytelling, because it's like your mind's like, okay, he got out of there scot free, but it's like you, it's almost that saying, you reap what you sow. Although he even knew that, he probably not be able to walk away from this.
Oh,
So
yeah.
when
Yeah.
when we see that he's been shot, and he's bleeding out, it's like he's like, and then all these cops converge on him, and everything. He's like, I'm not gonna give up. I mean, it's like not so much a fight, but he's like, I'm not going back. But at the same time, I know this is my moment. This is my moment to just like, hey, if this is my moment to just leave this world, so be it. And it's like, hey, he didn't go out crying. That's the thing about it. He didn't go out with a whimper. He literally went out
Nope.
with a bang, if you think about it, which is beautiful. So I like
Yeah.
that.
So wrapping it up, your final thoughts and your rating for King of New York 1990.
Boy, dude, I gotta say, it's a shame that I did not see this in my youth. I mean, I would have, loved to have seen this because, like I say, I'm a movie buff. I love movies. I love when it tells good stories. Has a good character arc and everything. And this movie is no exception. I mean, it's one of those rarities that I don't know how it. I don't know how I missed it under my radar, because usually
All right.
I see films that are like low key than this one, and I see
Mm-hmm.
those films. So I figure like, okay, maybe that's the reason why. But now it's like you got major players in here like David Caruso, like you mentioned, and Wesley Snipes and did Steve Buscemi. I'm like, how is it that I missed that? But again, that just shows right there that you can't see everything coming from afar. So this film is a definite gem, and it's a timeless gem. It's kind of like what I was talking about. Heat. It's one of those films that deserves to be looked at because it has not these one-sided, one-dimensional characters. They actually have some very three-dimensional characterizations of people that you watch and invest in. Because as I told you before on last night with Cobra, if your characters are not worth watching, there's no sense you watching the film.
Yep. And
So
that's a great point because every single character that actually matters in this film,
mhm,
and it doesn't matter if it's just support characters like Snipes or Caruso or the girls, everyone matters. They all make an impression on you. So when the time comes for whatever happens to them, you actually care one way or the other.
right. And that's the thing. So for my rating, I'm gonna be honest with you. I'm gonna give this a solid 10. I feel like that it deserves a 10 in my mind because it's that well placed kind of filmmaking. Well, I'd say film storytelling. I should say storytelling instead of filmmaking because it is a good filmmaking in terms of what it does, but storytelling, it's very much that because as I said before, I did not expect the story to go that it does, and I feel like that's good storytelling when you, the person watching, don't expect what's going to happen. And thankfully, I'm glad that you suggested this because films have been suggested to me before, and sometimes it'd be hit and miss, but this was a total hit for me. And yes,
Yeah, you might have gone another what 25 years without seeing it.
probably so. It could have happened that way. You never know. Like I say, if you had never mentioned it, I would never even discovered it. So yeah, thank
Yeah, I'm with you. Even I hadn't watched it in quite a while just by owning it, but even going back to it, it doesn't lose any luster. It's still very much. I love the grittiness, the acting. You can tell with all the actors, even as green as they were, young as they were back then, you can understand how they became stars later. Like it's very easy to see that. And again, this director, how he managed to take an independent film, even though it's connected a little bit with New Line,
you.
how he was able to get this cast is brilliant. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know. And the only unfortunate thing here, and I cannot believe it, but again, maybe this has um, more to do with the PR part of it, but it cost
Mhm.
5 million to make, which is not much really when you think about it.
It's
But it
not.
only made 2.6.
Mm.
So that disappointing, but I can tell you from most people I've talked with, they all love this film. All love it. So it's unfortunate. I don't know. It just wasn't pushed very hard or whatever, but this is a fantastic film.
Oh, it really
And I still give it a 10 out of 10, straight up. No issues with this film at all. It's got sexiness, it's got grit, it's got violence, it's got humor. It's got a lot of everything in it. And I just really, really enjoy this.
yeah, and I enjoy it for
Uh,
it because it's not trying to be something else. It's being its own thing.
yeah.
I love that.
So give me quickly, do you have anything coming up on your channel that people need to know about?
Well, on my channel, I got something coming up this Friday, which I'm going to be discussing my personal top top 30 now, not one or two, 30 top and I'm not going to say superhero because superhero is kind of vague because the films I'm going to have on my list are in conjunction to comic books. So it's top 30 comic book films that I have felt have stood the test of time and still hold up even to this day. And that's
Hmm.
even the ones that have been kind of recently to the ones that have been going back to our days back in the 70s and before that. So yeah.
Very nice.
Mm-hmm.
Tonight, I have Ghouls at Midnight with Mr. Tony the Dead. I'm doing a movie called The Ceremony is About to Begin, and it's a found footage thing. I don't know a whole lot about it, but once I started kind of watching it just on a whim, had some Egyptian mythology mixed in. So I'm like, oh, okay, I got to come back to this. So I'm
Okay.
going to force Tony and I, who likes found footage films anyway, we're going to watch that and review it. And then his pick, which will probably be out later in the week, will be Don't Open Till Christmas.
Mm.
He's staying with like a Christmas theme on his stuff. And then the only other thing I got, might get with Kevin on tomorrow with Neko to do his Christmas special, but I know he's kind of run into some computer issues, so I don't know
Yes,
if that's
yes,
going to happen.
yeah.
But other than that, my channel on Friday, the only thing I got left, because it's a Christmas week, I won't be doing a whole lot, but Friday, Neko and I will finally get to my rock and metal picks of the year. She's had problems with her computer, so after Christmas, I'll have a new one to replace that. So we'll fix that and get that done. But
And that's going to be
Jedi, man,
right?
what's that?
That's going to be a recording, right? I'm assuming.
Yeah, I would love to do it live, but it's just too risky because you know how it is.
Yeah,
YouTube is very selective about copyright stuff, so I don't want to get. Last time I did it last year, they gave me a strike, which eventually will fall off, but I don't want to push my luck with that stuff. So I'll just record it, upload it. If there's any issues, I can edit it before I keep it up, and then I won't get hit with anything at that point. But thank you, sir, for joining me. It's been a blast as always.
Yes.
I love you to death. Thank you for joining me. As I do on this particular show, I go out with a little outro dedicated to the film that we just reviewed. And until next time, this is the Middle Time Radio Podcast. Please go like and subscribe to Jedi Grand Velle Productions. Great content over there, great discussions, and we'll see you next time. I try.
Yes.
Take care, everybody.